Well, hi everybody. This is Rebecca Lauren here again to do some more knitting. I initially was planning to make a full scarf with this first project. However, as I've moved forward with it, it's become more and more apparent that it's only going to become more and more ruined pretty much as I go forward. So I've been casting off on this one. It almost came undone a few times, but I have to learn somehow, and this one is not going to be perfect. But I have learned a lot from this, and I have a whole bunch of loops remaining yet to cast off. So I have a lot of work to do on this, and then I'm not sure if I'm going to finish it today. I don't know. Let's see how this stream goes. Whether or not we can finish this today and even start a new scarf, one that I will make less mistakes on, hopefully. This is part of the learning process. Part of the learning process is to try your best, and just like in anything else in life, which I am drawing a lot of connections that I previously did not, really feel as strongly. I'm kind of like making some mental connections between things that are happening in my life through learning how to knit. That a lot of the times we can always start over. Oh, see, like right there, that slipped out. We can always start over. You don't always have to start over from the beginning. For example, but it's always possible that you do have to start over from the beginning. I would have, the further along you get, the harder it is to go all the way back. But it's you always have to remember that you are not immune from losing progress. Even in something where, you're relatively safe, you're never 100% safe. That at any time, especially like, I took a lot of things for granted. I took a lot of things for granted, especially, with this bottom surgery. I had assumed that I assumed everything was in the bag, that all I had to do was get to the surgery date. But obviously, my health is a huge factor over whether or not my surgeon feels comfortable performing the surgery. So while I'm not having to start over from the beginning, I don't have to wait another 4 years. It's not how it works. I do have to wait until a little bit longer than I wanted. So it's not all the way over. So I don't have to start all the way from the beginning. That would be torture. I don't think any doctor would want that. And he assures me it's not going to take very much longer. But a few months feels like an eternity, I'm going to tell you. It's only been about a month since I heard the news about the delay. And it's been difficult. And it's things get you get kind of into the swing of things. You get a little bit more kind of resilient. That's what humans do. Is we're resilient. And it was kind of a realization that at any time you can lose all the progress you've made. That I'm not immune from it. That our life is so delicate that not just what I'm going through, but anything that anybody is going through is not something to be taken for granted. That even things that you've worked so hard for and have done everything possible to make sure that you're safe, all it takes can be a single mistake to undo all your progress. And earlier, I almost undid all my casting off progress. It started to unravel. But I slowed down, I took a deep breath, and I was like, okay, how do I can't fix it all the way, but I can at least make it so I don't lose any more progress. And luckily, I was able to figure that out. I was able to look at the situation and say, okay, well, if I panic, I'll lose all the progress, especially if I do it on purpose. If I get so angry that I just, rip up my entire project, then I lose all my progress. So it is possible to lose all your progress. You'd have to try really hard at a certain point. Like right now, if I wanted to lose if I had to make this so this would all just be straight yarn, I would have to really work hard at it to untie everything and rip through all of it without breaking it. But I could also even break it if I ripped it. It is possible. But there are ways to prevent that. And I think that's what human behavior is that we do our best to survive. We do our best to make sure that we get the outcomes we desire. And a lot of the time, it's really mind over matter. That if we have the right mindset, if we do things the right way, we will prevent these things from happening. That there's actions we can take to say, even though it's possible I can lose my progress, I don't have to. At any moment we can choose to just, ruin our lives. That doesn't mean we're going to. You'd have to try pretty hard to do that. Unfortunately, some people do that. They make a huge mistake, and sometimes those mistakes you can't come back from. Unfortunately, there's people that have harmed people. And see right there, we're at that point again. What I have to do, I believe, to fix this, is I gotta just put this back on. Put this one back on. Yeah. No? This one back on. Knit this one. And then pull this one over the new stitch. Okay. Okay, now it's tightened and it's not unraveling anymore. I almost lost all my progress if I had allowed it. But I'm learning to minimize my mistakes. And this is not going to be a very perfect, not even sure what to call this, just a swatch of knitting. I will gift this to my dad, and he'll appreciate it because I know him. And this project represents my effort to learn. And I wish I could make a full scarf, but it's just turning into an unmanageable project. And I have to, know when to call it to start the next project. And the next one, I will do my best to actually make into a wearable scarf. I need to make it not, this one was too wide. There was too many loops and it was becoming unmanageable. And I would have been working on it I've been working on this for several days, and I think it's about time to, say I learned what I could from this one, but it's time to start again. And I can use the lessons I've learned from this project in the next one. And unfortunately, because I'm learning, my projects aren't going to be perfect. Not what I want them to be. But the only way to learn is to make the attempt. And I'm sure the people I'm gifting these to will understand that I'm a beginner. And I'm sure they'll really appreciate it, because it's obviously, if I can make it really higher quality, they would really appreciate it more. But I think, the fact that I'm, I think they can understand that I'm learning, and I think they'll appreciate that. The gift isn't about what I'm making them. I'm not trying to make them the perfect scarf or anything like that. I'm trying, this is kind of copium. It's like, winners win and losers lose. I really don't think that everything has to be so black and white. Obviously, but I know that it is good. The goal is to win. The goal is to make a good product. However, you can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs. And projects like this are my first project. This is my very first knitting project in my entire life. Are those eggs that need to be, the eggshells. And unfortunately, it's like there's still scrambled eggs here. I had to I didn't want to make scrambled eggs. I wanted to make sunny side up. Or I wanted to make, over easy. So hopefully the next one can be what I want it to be. But, that's where we are. I can't change the outcome of this project. I think I can learn from this. That it's very important that I make sure to prevent mistakes rather than try to correct them, because at some point you can't correct the mistakes anymore. I might be able to correct a single mistake, but if I make multiple mistakes, I would have to go back all the way to the beginning to correct it. So I'm just going to do the best to finish it so that I can start the next one and do a better job on that one, making less mistakes. Or maybe even no mistakes, if I'm really careful. We're actually not that far from being done. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. We have 26 loops to cast off. Which is going pretty slowly, but this is also the first time I'm casting off, which is an extremely important step. Because if I don't cast off correctly, the whole thing will unravel. Oops. You know, I think practicing patience is an important part of life, and it's definitely an important part of knitting. And sometimes I get, I was working on my knitting, off stream, or, and sometimes I know when I need to take a break is when I start, thinking a certain way when I'm working, is when I start thinking I just need to get it done. When I'm thinking about, getting it over with. Because that is not the mindset I need while I'm knitting. I'll make more mistakes that way because I'll be frustrated. Or because I'm trying to do it quickly. But speed comes from accuracy. I learned this from learning music. Is if you can't play it slow, you can't play it fast. As much as some musicians think they can, you can't play at tempo correctly. You can play at tempo, but that doesn't mean that you're playing tempo correctly. You might think you are, but an outside observer can be objective, and they can know whether or not your performance is affected. And there's, as much as we like to say art is subjective, there are varying forms of quality, and it's just natural. If you listen to two different performances, one is going to be a better performance in, execution or in expression or in some other way. The more there are certain measurements of quality that are more subjective than others. However, but that, it becomes more and more a matter of opinion. The more minor the quality differences become. The more subtlety there is. But it's important to remember that if somebody is singing out of tune and somebody else isn't, on two different recordings or two different performances, if it's a live performance, two different people doing the same exact performance, but one person is out of tune, the audience is going to notice and prefer the one that's in tune. So it's very important to remember that quality, while it doesn't make you a bad musician, it means that performance wasn't what you wanted it to be. And a good artist, a good performer, will recognize what they did wrong during that performance, make the adjustments, learn what they need to learn, practice what they need to practice to not do it again. And you're never going to be perfect, but the more you work on these things, the more you practice, the less often they happen. And when they do happen, they happen to a lesser degree. But you always have to remember, and what I'm learning from this is that it's always possible for a virtuoso pianist, for example, to hit the wrong key. And if you let that snowball, it's possible for the pianist to hit the wrong key for the entire song, to completely ruin the performance. For example, if the performer was inebriated through alcohol or any other kind of, like, if emotions, if something, if there was a significant negative event in that person's life, for example, and they're affected emotionally, it's always possible for someone to unravel. And, we can forgive ourselves for that, and we can forgive other people for that. But it's important to remember that you're not above making mistakes, no matter how skilled at something you are. And the amount of time you put into something, the amount of years or decades of experience doesn't change that. If you're playing a game of chess and you make a move that allows your opponent to checkmate you, it's still checkmate. Doesn't matter if your name is Magnus Carlsen. Doesn't matter if you're, doesn't matter. That accuracy matters. Now, I think the negative feelings we have because of pride or arrogance or whatever, those are optional. We don't have to feel that way. It's a choice. That when we make a mistake, we don't have to let it make us feel like a failure. You don't have to feel defeated. We can just get back up, do our best to rectify the situation. Some situations in life, unfortunately, can't be rectified. Many people have made mistakes that they can never come back from in life. I don't think anyone is exempt from that. But are you going to choose to make more mistakes? Or are you going to choose to not do it again? Of course, it would be better if you didn't do it in the first place. But no one is exempt from mistakes. Some mistakes are very, very big. I am fortunate enough to have not made one of those kind of mistakes. I've definitely made some big mistakes in life, especially when I was younger. But I haven't made the kind of mistakes that some people have made, which is very fortunate. Some people have made mistakes and they have been punished for it. But some punishments are civil. Some punishments are internal. There have been people who have committed atrocities, like murder. But, they have to live with that for the rest of their life. And luckily, I never did anything like that. So I have a lot to be thankful for, that the mistakes I made while I do have to live with them. And there's some things that shouldn't be discussed publicly. But that being said, I am working with a therapist, and it seems that everybody in my life but me has forgiven me. Some of those things weren't even my fault. Some of those things were, but differentiating between the two, and in any case, forgiving myself for them, regardless of whether it was my fault or not, are the main work that I'm doing in therapy. Oh, God. And yeah, I do try to avoid talking about this stuff. It's nobody's business. But the reason why I'm mentioning it is because I'm not the only one who's made mistakes in life. I think these ones were mistakes. I think I can cast off here. I mean tie it off here. If I knew how to do that. How do I tie off the last one? I have done so many things to move forward in my life. I am not the same person I was when I made those mistakes. That person I still have to live with inside of my head. But everybody involved has forgiven me, except me. And that's something that I work through. And I'm, in the end, even with a therapist, in the end, it's something that I have to do alone. And I think I'm getting there. People wouldn't understand. It's so layered in complexity that it would be wrong to talk about. We all made mistakes when we were younger. Mine were rooted in confusion, undealt with autism issues, a lot of unresolved issues, reacting negatively to abuse that literally was not my fault. And the reason I'm talking about this is not to share it with you, but to share the lessons I've learned from overcoming them. Hey, Bumfluff. That's a fun name. I just need to... Where's my watch history? Oh, there it is. Okay, here we go. How to bind off knitting.
One more stitch.
Not cast off, bind off, right?
This last stitch and bring it over. You're doing this, you can knit kind of loosely. You don't want a very tight cast off edge. So just keep a loose hand while you're knitting. Here's my last stitch on my left needle. So I'm just going to knit into it and bring my stitch over. There we go. And now I just have one stitch left on my needle. There we go. So now here's the fun part. I'm going to take out a pair of scissors, nice and sharp, snip, snip, and I'm going to cut like 10 inches or so. There we go. Just cut that right off. And now my yarn is loose. And what I'm going to do is we need to secure this last stitch, right? So I'm going to take this yarn, bring it over the needle like this. I'm going to take this loop, this last stitch, and bring it over that tail end, pull it through, tighten it up, and voila! Our little swatch is off the needles. How cool is that? It's not attached to its little needle anymore. It's off the needle. It's its own little thing. Now you have all the tools you need to...
Okay. So we have this last one. And we have the yarn. Oh. And just kind of rip it off there. And what did she say to do?
Cast on, do little swatches off this loop, this last stitch, and bring it over that tail end, pull it through, tighten it up.
Okay. Ugh. Okay, go over it. And what?
And loop this last stitch and bring it over that tail end, pull it through, tighten it up, and voila! Our...
Okay. And then just... yeah, just... there it is. Well, here's the finished product. I guess it's kind of like a scarf that's unfinished. It kind of, I screwed it up a little bit too much, where it kind of curved in on itself. It's not perfect. Almost like a toilet seat cover. Yeah. Well, as ugly as it is, it's pretty durable. And it has all my mistakes, but it's a record of my attempt, my very first attempt at learning how to knit. I made this weird mistake where it curved in on itself. Not sure how it did that. Not sure why it curved. But hopefully the next one won't do that. I might even just see like a quick Google search. To knit without curving the edge. Slipping the first stitch knitwise with yarn in the back on the right side and slipping your first stitch purlwise with yarn in front. All right, I didn't curving. Simply slip the first stitch of every row without knitting it. Oh, okay. I have to do a slip stitch every row. I wasn't doing that. What makes knitting curl? It's the nature of the knit stitch. The horizontal knits or rows will pull the top and bottom of the stitch together toward the front of the stitch, causing it curl up from the bottom and down from the top. Edge stitches and garter stitch is good when you want a nice firm edge on a piece that you will later sew inside or pick up stitches from. Knit the edge stitches on every row and you'll have your edge stitches and garter stitch. Dropping a stitch, adding extra stitches, getting your stitches twisted, and not providing enough slack as you knit are all common mistakes first-timers run into. 4 common knitting mistakes. Are you a new knitter? If so, congratulations. This hobby is all but guaranteed to bring you lifelong joy. We also understand how daunting it can be to begin this often complex craft. Dropping a stitch, adding extra stitches, getting your stitches twisted, and not providing enough slack as you knit are all common mistakes first-timers run into. But don't let these fears stop you from honing your craft. The best part about all of these pitfalls is that they are preventable and fixable. Dropped stitch. Don't panic. This happens all the time. A stitch will fall off in your bag, slip when you set your knitting down, or pop off the end of your needle when you aren't paying a close attention. This happened a couple times during my project. Sometimes it will work its way deep down into the fabric, but there's still good news. It's fixable. How to prevent a drop stitch. Here are a few tips that will prevent this from happening in the first place. Look at your fabric regularly to spot any unusual nubs of stitches hanging out or gaping row of ladders. Count your stitches regularly to make sure your stitch count is not going down. Always stop knitting when you get to the end of a row. Stuffing your knitting in your project bag mid-row is a surefire way to lose some stitches. Well, I have this. You can put these things to stop them from coming off. How to fix a drop stitch. It's actually easier than you might think to correct this issue. When you look at your work, the drop stitch will be hanging out morosely at the bottom of what looks like a series of ladder rungs. These ladder rungs are the working yarn from each row that came out of that drop stitch. We're going to pull that lost stitch back up the ladder rungs, recreating a stitch at each rung or each row. Here's how to do it. Start by using your left-hand needle to pick up the last stitch you see. The right-hand side, the leg of the stitch, should be in front of the needle. The ladder rungs of working yarn from the rows the stitch fell out of will be hanging out above it. Next, insert your left-hand needle underneath the lowest ladder rung. You should now have the old stitch and the working yarn, the ladder rung, from the row above the drop stitch on your needle. Insert your right-hand needle into the dropped stitch and pull it over that first ladder rung that's on your needle. Just like that, you've picked up a stitch for one row. Now repeat. Put your left-hand needle under the next available ladder rung and repeat the steps above to remake the stitch for that row. Keep going. Continue to pull that stitch up each row, reforming the stitch as above until you get to the top. That line of stitches may look a little looser, but this will decrease in visibility as you keep working and when you block your work. Okay, and they talk about extra stitches. Accidental yarn over occurs when you bring your yarn to the front of the work as opposed to keeping it in the back. Then when you go to knit the next stitch, the working yarn goes up and over your needle, creating extra loop as you're on your needle as it makes the next stitch. How do I keep my garter stitch rows straight and not curved? Consider adding a 1-inch border of garter stitch. Blocking. Okay, what is blocking? What is blocking in knitting? Blocking is the process of wetting or steaming your final pieces of knitting to set the finished size and even out the stitches. You could use any flat surface to block your garments. The knitter's block. Just be sure that your knitted piece lies flat and fully dry so that its shape sets. I think they're referring to something else. I'm thinking of like a curve, like an how do I keep garter stitch rows from forming a circle? Maybe in order to learn this, I need to read how to do that. Because a lot of the time you do want it to be round. When knitting in the round, right side of the work is always facing you. Therefore, in order to achieve garter stitch, one round will be worked with knit stitches, and the next round will with purl stitches. I think the reason why the delay would keep increasing on my camera, it wasn't doing it before, was because, and now is there a line again? Okay, there's no line. Was because I switched it to 30 FPS on the capture card, but it's actually outputting in 29.97. So I think over time, those extra 0.03 milliseconds, I mean, those extra 0.03 seconds would just kind of compound. I'm guessing. In order to achieve garter stitch, one round will be worked with knit stitches, and next round will work. That's for doing round projects.
If you're making a finger knit scarf and your sides are curling in, don't worry. You're not doing anything wrong. This is a common issue even with traditional knitting, and really the only way to fix
Oh, that's with curling in. I meant like curling like in a half circle.
this is to interrupt that sequence.
Knitting scarf is turning into a toilet seat cover. Not what I wanted.
If you're making a finger
Don't search for that. Knitted scarf turns into a half circle. What makes a semicircle? No. I'm not trying to knit a shawl. Let me look at a pattern. So many different shawl shapes, of course. The knit half circle shawl wraps around just okay. Garter stitch. So if you increase the number of stitches each row, it gradually flares out. That's kind of cool. I think the reason it curled was because I was missing stitches, or because I would skip stitches and then it would gradually kind of, I think that's what happened. So with this next one, I need to start. Where'd the other one go? Where'd the other one go? Okay, we start from 0. Yeah, snitches get stitches, void burner. For sure. Wait, are you Grisha? I forgot. I think the other day you were here on stream and I just thought you were another viewer. Oh, you're my guild leader. Unless you're not him. And then I just completely just mistook you for someone else. So I really need to make this one a lot less stitches. So I think if I can use a lot less. And if I use too much, I can always just cut it off. You are Grisha. Okay. So I start with the slip knot. And then we pull that through. And we have the slip knot. Not the band. And tighten that. Then I have to go like this and just oh, I think I did that wrong. Let's start over from the slip knot. Okay. Okay, go like this. Bring it up. Okay, that's it. Pretty sure I have to go like that each time. Oh yeah, I do, because otherwise it's just... I'm just tying knots at that point. Okay. Like this, then that. Okay. Yeah, wait. Okay, let's start over. Better to prevent mistakes than keep going after, they compound themselves the more mistakes you've made. Oh no, I'm doing it. You have to go over it. Okay, that's what it was. I'm like forgetting the process because I only did it like once or twice. Okay, I was doing it wrong. Go like this, over it, and then around it. There we go. That was the process. Wait, what did I do wrong here? Starting to get all bunched up. Start over again. Okay. Yeah, and this should always be the one towards the ball of yarn, should always be on the top and facing towards my right side because I'm right-handed. It would be the opposite if I was left-handed. And then the stitches to be stitched need to be on the left side. Okay. This goes over it so that it can be on top, and then you loop it around. Now there's an internal sense of guilt that any of us who have made mistakes in our life have. Which is most people. And in fact, I don't think there's a person alive who hasn't made a mistake in their life. There's an internal guilt that feels like even after people forgive you, you feel that if people actually knew about like the mistakes you made, sometimes they're private, you feel like if somehow they knew that they would judge you, that they would see you as a monster. Even in cases where what you did wasn't like, compared to some people, wasn't like necessarily like, you know, it doesn't make you a monster. It just makes you a person who made a mistake. But forgiveness is something that I've been trying to work on for many years in therapy. Okay, how many stitches? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Two, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so I have 20 stitches now. I think 30 stitches might be enough for a scarf. I don't know. You know, and some people will think I'm a monster if they knew, but those people are not the kind of people that you need in your life because they're very judgmental and they probably are compensating for something that is far worse than anything I've ever done in this life. Acts of violence. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But you know, everybody who knows me loves me and knows what my heart is, and that I am the last person who would ever commit an act of violence. Because that's who I am. I'm that kind of person who loves, who expresses love, who does everything she possibly can to not be violent. And my violent past, which is not even as violent as some, like it was more of an internal violence. There's people who've done way worse who do not feel any remorse whatsoever. Yet I do something that is still violent, but not that kind of violent. And I have not been able to forgive myself. And I think that is a testament to the kind of person I am. That even if I slightly transgress somebody, I will feel personal guilt. And I think it's important that I don't, shame only hurts. There is no benefit to shame. Like when we live in shame, like we're doing everything, like we need to forgive ourselves and love ourselves, because that is how you heal the damage, any damage that you may have caused. That is how you heal it. I think 5 more. This is much neater than the first one, so this is going to be a lot better. Especially since I'm like actually counting the stitches this time. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. 31, 32, 33, 34, 35. And I need to get scissors. Okay, that's good. Just a small tail. I don't want too little there because I don't want it to undo itself. And maybe just kind of tie itself into a knot. I probably should have done that first before ripping it. So yeah, I mean, if anything, I just need, what I've been working on in therapy, and I'm obviously giving the, very, very short kind of, I don't need to tell anybody, and but there are certain things that I can share publicly, just as like kind of a big overarching like progress that I've made, which is huge, is learning how to forgive myself and not feel shame for things that happened in a past where I was broken and abused and my actions were not the right response, but they also were understandable considering the abuse that was happening to me. So when abuse is happening to you, especially when you're young, it's really easy to make mistakes. And I understand that now. But the process of forgiveness is long and confusing sometimes. But I've made significant progress, and I owe it to the people that I believe I've hurt. Even if they have forgiven me, I owe it to them to forgive myself so I can stop being abused. Because now I'm the one abusing myself, even though there's nobody abusing me. And I can't do that because that makes me the one who's at fault. I owe it to myself and to everybody who loves me to stop being my own abuser. Because that's not how healing happens. That's how further suffering happens. And yeah, I don't really necessarily, I don't have to talk about this stuff at all. I'm here to just kind of, I have created somewhat of a contemplative space on my stream. Certain details are reserved for therapy. But I just thought I would share a little bit so people can understand a little bit of what I've been struggling with, even though it's nothing near anything. I hope people don't think that I'm a monster, that I'm hiding something. But I can't choose how people interpret what I have to say. But, it's like, obviously some people will imagine whatever they want because they want me to be a monster. Whether it's because they just don't like me or whether it's because they just, whether they have some reason to hate me already because they just see me as a monster already, especially just for being trans. Some people just want to see trans people as sick, demented people because it makes it easier for them to hate us. But that doesn't necessarily mean... Okay, so start with a slip knot every single time, I think. Then I add a row every time. Never mind, I don't want to do that. Okay. So what I start with is I just get this in there. Just stitch as normal. The reason why the other one curled up was because I was adding extra stitches or sometimes skipping stitches. That's what was happening. And I basically just want to transfer stitches but like wrap the yarn in between each row. That's all I need to do. So yeah, obviously there's going to be people, regardless of what I say or do, even if it's a good things, they're going to see me as a monster because they want to see trans people as monsters. They may have seen a movie like where they saw somebody who appeared trans, and honestly, I really think we shouldn't police gender. But there was definitely a character in a movie called Silence of the Lambs that has kind of painted a very negative picture for trans people, even though that character was supposedly, had something else going on, clearly. But that character exhibited traits of gender queerness at the very least. And, the author of, especially of the book, From what I understand, I haven't read the book, only the scene in question, but there was a scene that's not in the movie, where Jodie Foster's character, Lieutenant Sterling or Starling, she goes to a transgender clinic to investigate, and the doctors at the clinic, make a huge point of saying that, like, this person is not of sound mind, and this person is, not, undergoing, this person isn't trans, which is kind of unfortunate, because that's not in this case, because in that case it's a character who is actually criminally insane. However, there's many people who are denied transgender medicine because of some medical system. Thankfully, we're migrating away from this in a lot of transgender clinics, but there's still places in the world where you have to, quote unquote, prove that you're trans enough, whatever that means. It's like, it doesn't really mean anything. And unfortunately, a lot of people are denied medicine because of that. Honestly, even if this character was trans, we're going to just, go by the informed consent model. Still doesn't excuse criminal behavior. But, this fictional character is clearly criminally insane. Oh, God. Okay. So, oh, God. Okay, I have to, oh, no. Okay. Already off to a bad start here. Yeah, maybe I've talked too much publicly about a lot of things. Maybe I permanently tainted my image. I feel like there's much worse things that people have done online. I mean, look at Aiden Ross. Hopefully I'm not getting any extra stitches. Let me count the ways. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay, wait. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34. Did I skip one? One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34. Okay. Yeah, I don't want to screw this up. Especially this early. That's why it's important to be accurate. Speed comes with accuracy. I don't know if I screwed up. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Okay. 23, 24, 25. 18, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 1, 32, 33, 34. Okay. There's 18 on this side now. $19. 20. 21. 22. Okay. 23. 24. 25. 26. 27. 28. 29. 2 frayed off. Okay, but I need to be very careful because I don't want to make extra stitches from that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so I need to still get this loop. Okay. Okay. Okay, that was 32. 33. 34. And 35. Okay. First row complete. Yeah, we're off to a better start this time. This one is a lot. I mean, there's some, we'll fix this at the very end. We have to like block everything with, we have to get like hot water and like block it, straighten it and all that. That's for the very end. And you put a blanket over the camera so you can sleep. Are you that tired? How you doing, Weston? We're just knitting. Do I still have 35 loops? 35 stitches? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34. I missed a stitch. Or did I miscount? 1, 2. Oh, there's like 2. Okay. One, 2, 3. Is that 2 combined or is that just frayed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34. I think there's still 35. I think it's just some of them I miscounted. It's harder to tell. Either way, we're just going to keep going. Okay. One. Two. Oh, maybe this was the extra one that I needed to count. Three. Four. Five. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Yeah, you never know what somebody is dealing with. They're probably dealing with sense of guilt as well. Even when they were, oh no. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Ugh. Yeah, this is so annoying sometimes. Okay. So it's like I need to not be so selfish to think I'm the only person in the planet dealing with guilt. Because guilt is guilt regardless of even if you did something terrible or not. You can have guilt if you were abused yourself because you feel responsible. You feel like, it's your fault that you were abused when it's not your fault. I mean, Goodwill Hunting is a really good example. It really isn't your fault. At least that initial thing. And it's like when our actions in the present are affected by the initial trauma, we're choosing to become the abuser. And we need to not do that. Some things in our life were out of our control, but we can control what we do now. And I need to remember that. I need to have that so deeply ingrained, because I have internalized, because of an autistic brain, all of the trauma that was given to me and all the trauma that I then inflicted upon myself through my actions, through the self-sabotaging, self-harming brain, all the self-talk that was negative, all the screaming and shouting at people and blaming people. That was, a lot of it wasn't my fault. But these past 4 years, I've taken it upon myself to rewrite the narrative for myself and escape the trauma once and for all. Because there was so much trauma, and it's really hard for people to understand. And it's not that I'm unique. I'm not like special, and my trauma isn't any better or worse than anyone else's. Some people go through significant trauma that is, in my opinion, way worse than mine. But trauma is trauma. And the main thing is that the trauma is gone. Like, it's not happening anymore. But it sticks with us. And we're the ones who relive it. And it's really difficult because some people traumatize you and it's with you for the rest of your life. And then you have to work extremely difficult. Like, it's extremely difficult. I don't even know if it's possible to escape the damage. And it's really unfortunate because so many people are victims. I'm a victim. So many people are victims. And you don't know, any person that you meet, you have absolutely no idea what that person's been through. You don't know if that person was an abuser or whether they've been abused. And in either case, their abusers were abused. That's where abuse comes from. In a very rare amount of times, people are abusers because of a mental illness. But that also makes it not really their fault. It doesn't make it okay. But some people have very, very serious mental illness, or they're psychopathic or sociopathic, and that's a severe mental illness. And that obviously the victim is the one who should be supported most. But if the abuser isn't supported, they'll continue to abuse. So I feel like it's important to have compassion for every single person you meet, because you have absolutely no idea whether that person has been abused, which, there's a lot more people who've been abused than I think we realize. or whether that person actually is an abuser. And I think it's best not to come from a place of judgment or hatred or anything like that. I feel like it's best to come from a place of empathy, where you're like, if I was in that person's shoes, what would I have done? Because if you can't forgive others, how are you supposed to forgive yourself? Can sociopaths be healed? I don't know if I can answer that question. I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist. But what I do know is from my own experience on this earth is that I feel like those of us who do wish to heal, we're harder on ourselves in most cases, especially if we never got punished because it didn't merit punishment. We've punished ourselves. There's a reason why, is that justice? You've been abused and then you're abusing yourself now? Is that justice? Or is justice somebody who continually seeks out to cause abuse and who has had many chances to change and still hasn't? At that point, then you get the justice system involved because that person is just going to continue to abuse. Which unfortunately a lot of people escape. Which I guess is better than the alternative of punishing a whole bunch of people who shouldn't be. Criminal justice system is not perfect. There are people, unfortunately, who get away with it. And I think, obviously, I think it's human nature to want revenge. But if somebody's harmed us, we want to see them have some kind of consequence. But the reality is that sometimes people do bad things and they get away with it. And unfortunately, we can't solve every single crime. We can't deliver justice for every single crime. But what we can do is we can stop hurting ourselves. Especially if we were complete victims. Where it wasn't our fault. Where there was somebody who hurt you badly. And no amount of it's worse for other people. I must not have been abused because I wasn't abused in this way this other person was. So this other person must have been abused way worse than me. Every victim of abuse goes through this. And it doesn't matter how severe or how, benign or whatever you want to call it. Doesn't really matter because to the victim, everyone else is worse off than you. Because as much as people like to say oh, you're making yourself a victim, it's human nature not to do that. People hate feeling like they're making excuses. People hate feeling that way. People want to take personal responsibility. They want to feel like they're strong, but it doesn't make you weak. It just makes you a victim. It's not your fault. Anyway, that's pretty much what I've learned these past 4 years in therapy. And I still have a long way to go because I still punish myself for things that weren't my fault. It wasn't my fault. And I'm really glad that I've recognized that and started to heal because otherwise nothing would have changed. And then I would have become the abuser because that's the risk we all take when we blame ourselves. When you blame yourself, you're not fixing the problem. You're not healing. You're becoming the problem. That's what happened to the people who abused you. What are you knitting? I'm attempting to knit a scarf. The first one was really bad. It looks almost like a toilet seat cover. No, it's a butt cover. See, there's a spot for your butthole. The first one was a learning experience for sure. Yeah, we can try to reach perfection, of course. That's I don't think anything will ever be perfect, but we do improve things. Hey, Twice. Get on. We're going to be getting on well, this is the first part of the day. I'm going to stream knitting until I feel like I need to take a break. And later today and over the course of the weekend, I want to get level 20. So we're going to be playing some World of Warcraft all weekend. But I do think knitting is important for me. I need to every single day work on this. It's very therapeutic, because talking about things with a therapist is really good. It's very proven therapy. It's called psychotherapy. It's where you just talk it out with guidance from a qualified professional. My therapist has been really invaluable. However, talk therapy alone, especially if you end up going in circles like I do, doesn't really do the trick. And I need something to do with my hands that isn't just playing video games. Video games is such a routine thing for me from a lifetime of playing video games, because guess what? When I was being abused, guess what got me through that? But it's like that. It's become such an automatic thing that it's still therapeutic in its own way, but like I need to do something new, and I need to do something with my hands, because physical action has a way of healing your brain in ways that other things just can't. It's so raw, like elemental. It's just like, it doesn't need words. It just needs action. And I feel like if we can apply that to our recovery from abuse, and for some of us, I ran a huge risk of becoming the abuser. But I escaped it. I made the change. I made the change that needed to happen. And that makes me strong. That makes me beautiful. Because not everybody is able to escape that cycle. Doesn't mean we're immune to it. Anyone could potentially be an abuser. No amount of therapy or, being good, like no amount of brownie points, whatever, no amount of good deeds ever exempts you from becoming an abuser. Oh, God. But what it does do is it gives you the template for doing the right thing. Come on. I accidentally lost a stitch there. There, yeah, there it is. Okay. I know. Ugh. Don't get it twisted. All of this is mostly internal dialogue. I don't want anybody to think that there's some serious shit going on. That there's anything, like... This is mostly just stuff that is being processed internally. I mean, it is serious, but not in a direct way. I'm a good person, and my actions reflect that. But at a lot of the times, I really misunderstand reality. that I accuse myself of being a monster when I'm not. Anything but. Most people who have been abused most likely feel the same way. But I'm different in the sense that I'm taking action to change the narrative and overcome the abuse that and not become the abuser. Okay, I've completed 2 rows. Yeah, I'm American. I'm in California. Imagination and reading books. Yeah, I like books. I like fantasy. I like sci-fi. Yeah, I mean, escape isn't necessarily about running away. Escape is about changing the narrative. Because a lot of the times we think we know what's going on. We actually don't. We know nothing. We think we do, but we don't. Okay, this is already not perfect, but I don't need it to be perfect. Compared to the first one, I don't think it's going to be anywhere near as bad. But I have to remember that, it's not going to be perfect. Just like every single stitch is a learning experience, and the end product will get better and better as I improve. And I'm not going to be perfect. You have to do I have to make a whole bunch of mistakes and correct them. And that's the key. Making mistakes in and of themselves, I know people say you learn from your mistake, making mistakes helps you learn. You only learn from the mistakes that you learn from. If you're not learning anything, they're just mistakes. It's really important because practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes permanent. And if you're making mistakes and you never do anything to correct them so that you don't do it again, the mistakes are going to happen again. And so you really have to be zoned in and notice what you did wrong so that you can say, okay, how could I have done that differently? And if you can't name it and make those changes, then you haven't learned. But you're not going to be able to learn. Sometimes it depends on the thing that you're learning. Sometimes it's just going to take a few repetitions to learn. You're not going to learn it perfectly at first. But most things, as you're making the changes immediately, you're going to be effective with learning. Because that's how you practice. You don't practice by doing things more often. You practice by doing things correctly more often. My room looks aesthetic. Not really. It looks autistic. Yeah, I finished up Voyager and then I started up Enterprise. I'm almost done with the first season. Yeah, movies, web series, anime. There is no real wrong answer. There's certain things I don't watch because I just don't want to be exposed to certain, topics or whatever. I'm pretty strong-willed and what's the word? I'm pretty resilient. There's a lot of things I can watch. But luckily, the things I don't want to watch happen to be illegal. So it's like, obviously, I don't want to watch illegal things. Like, I don't want to watch somebody being murdered. I don't think anybody should see those things. They're not safe for life. Some people, unfortunately, they have very serious mental illness and they seek out those things. And then they, hopefully they get caught and they get helped. But, unfortunately for them, they have to, suffer lifelong consequences for it. And hopefully you can learn these things before something like that happens, if you're suffering from those mental illnesses. But I don't know how to help those people. I know, to answer that previous question, I'm just a streamer. I'm not the smartest person. I do try to learn and expose myself to different ways of thinking and to new concepts, but I'm not a psychiatrist. I don't know what goes on in the mind of a psychopath. I'm not psychopathic. I'm just autistic. And even with autism, it's not super well researched. We don't fully understand how my brain is different, but the thing is you don't need to understand how to make a car to drive one. So I can live my life effectively. I just have to learn the strategies on how I can achieve results. Because that's how autism, from what I understand and from how my therapist describes it, is that I can still get from point A to point B. I just have to neurotypical people have to do, which sometimes are the same methods. But sometimes I have to use very creative methods that I can still function in society, and I might even excel. Certain things my brain just happens to latch on to in like superhuman ways. And the key is learning how to, that doesn't make up for the deficits in all the cases, but it could if I, kind of hedge my bets a little bit by working on certain skills in therapy, for example, is one of the ways. Or in learning new skills like knitting, I can learn new skills, which improves my chances at minimizing my deficits by strengthening them. Improving the things I can control, maximizing the things I can control and minimizing the things I can't. Well, yeah, in general, I'm going to delete that message. But basically, like people who watch really not safe for life things, among other things, not anything specific, but like there's many things that just aren't safe for life that nobody should watch. And unfortunately, there's people who are mentally ill and they seek out those kind of things, and they're usually on 4chan. Yeah, but we don't like talking about stuff like that here. I'm just kind of talking in general. We don't talk about specific stuff here. I don't like keeping that stuff on my stream. I think it's a really icky. I think it's really icky to talk about certain things. It's just, it makes me feel bad. But I am okay with talking in general about human psychology and like what leads people to get there. I think it's really fascinating. It's obviously terrible what happens because people are victims. But I think human psychology is very fascinating, and everybody could benefit from learning how people think. And it's not for everybody. I'm obviously not pursuing a career in psychiatry or psychology. But I think it is interesting, especially as a writer, to understand how people become who they are. Yeah, it's definitely triggering for me. I'm not confirming or denying anything, but I have experienced a lot of abuse when I was younger, and certain things will trigger me. You know, I don't know, don't use your imagination with that. Just, I don't know, let's change topics. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, you got to be careful about how you talk, because people are just going to jump to conclusions. And it's like, I don't want anyone to think anything that's... The only thing that really matters is not about the what, because there's a lot of people who've had way worse abuse than I have. In my opinion, objectively worse. But that doesn't really matter so much in this conversation. I don't know, this is just what's on my mind right now. It's like, I've been really contemplative lately. Maybe I should just shut up, because it's a really triggering topic for a lot of people, including myself. So, I mean, I'm gonna, try to steer away from the negative parts like that. It's really kind of triggering. I could go in circles. Just... There's just certain evil in the world that I can't do anything about. I can't make people stop being evil, from murdering people and doing terrible things to human beings. And honestly, it's not my responsibility. That's really egotistical to think that I can save the world. So egotistical. I don't have that much power. It's not my fault that I can't create world peace. That's like something that if you do, you get a Nobel Peace Prize. Playing chess lately, not so much. Kind of just learning how to knit. I need to learn something new so that I can break out of my habits. Because I have bad habits when I'm learning. And if I just keep making mistakes, they're going to compound upon themselves, and the mistakes are just going to keep happening. So like stuff like in chess, for example, I'm not like, I can, you can always be stronger in chess, but I'm definitely have a lot to learn. And sometimes you get to the point where you learn enough that you actually think you know more than you do. And that can affect the way you learn. I need to heat up my coffee. So, I mean, I have to apologize. I brought up some very triggering topics. I like to think that I'm pretty resilient. And I would like to think that my target audience is pretty resilient, because, my target audience is reflective of me. I'm pretty resilient. I've been on the internet for 23 years. I've become pretty titanium skinned. However, that doesn't mean that you have to go out of your way to, talk about triggering topics. So, basically, if you're experiencing abuse, or if you're recovering from abuse or anything like that, there are ways to recover. And I all I can offer is that the only way forward is forward. And talking about it is, ideally with a trained professional in an environment where you will be safe and protected with, client, client patient, client, patient privilege, where you have protected environment where you can talk and your therapist cannot tell anybody unless you're going to commit an act of violence, which you shouldn't. Definitely don't, because then you become the abuser and you've made a mistake. And don't do that. But what you can do is you can work through it, because if you just shove it aside, it's gonna be that much worse, because it's gonna come back. And if you're not prepared for it, it can be something that is a huge mistake in your life. And if you talk through it with a professional, you minimize that risk. Well, I mean, you don't know what I went through, so I don't know what you went through. I'm not going to share what I went through, because that would be inappropriate, and it wouldn't solve anything. It just wouldn't. It's not going to solve anything. That's for me and my therapist to discuss, just like anybody else's. Nobody's is anybody's right to hear about. Nobody is required to disclose their particular trauma. That is between them. And if you see it this way, this is between you and God. And hopefully counsel somebody that you can trust, somebody who is protected, with a therapist, with a licensed therapist, a professional, you are protected by the law, that your therapist can't disclose what you tell them. Like I said, unless you're going to commit a crime, which in that case, they have to disclose it to the proper authorities. But as far as healing goes, that's not a crime. That is working through the trauma so that you can heal, and that's so that you can make amends the best that you possibly can. And luckily, I am not going to commit any crimes. I just have a lot of damage. Like a lot of people, most victims of abuse don't become criminals. Some do, unfortunately. But what I can say is that I'm a good person. I am not a monster. Just because I imagine it doesn't make it true. Death Note? Death Note's really good. That was so intense. That was such an intense anime. Like, oh my god. Yeah, I mean, my audience is similar to me. Everybody's audience is, maybe not always similar to you, but at least, like, you can't 100% control how people react to your content, or your content could be your beliefs. And when you're a public speaker, you can only put out what you have to the world. How the world receives it is not really up to you. So when you create an audience, you guys are very unique, because you wouldn't be here obviously unless you were individuals. I can't control you, and it's kind of this magical thing when you create content, that you're creating something that it kind of becomes like a synergy between me, the speaker, and the viewer. And it's like, you are something that are different from me. You're the result of what I've put out into the world, which is so crazy to think about. That, like, everything that you say and do, if somebody listens to it, they will create their own unique reaction to it. But yeah, like I said, I'm gonna kind of like I'm gonna try to put this topic to bed. But I can't stress enough that if you're a victim of abuse, to please seek help with somebody that you can safely talk about it with, because it's so complicated. Talking about it publicly is only going to risk harm to you and or to others. But to talk about things with a therapist, even if you don't think it's that big of a deal, doesn't always have to be some childhood trauma or some shit like that. Sometimes it's like little small things, like you laughed at someone and, you know, they got upset, and then you're like, wow, like, why did I do that? And maybe there's a reason why you did that. Maybe it's not just random. I don't think it's worth hurting yourself for. Some people really do. They may not realize it, but it adds up over time. Years can go by, and little teeny tiny things that happen in your interactions with people, it'll really start to kind of snowball. And if you don't like really examine these things, you don't always have to examine things with a therapist. Like I said, certain things that are like extreme childhood trauma or something like that, you should only talk to a therapist about. But there's other things that aren't so big of a deal as that, but that are still a big deal to talk about. Most of the time, you should probably just talk to a therapist about specifics. I don't know. There is a therapeutic thing about public speaking, which is why I stream. It kind of helps you realize that things aren't always as bad as you think they are. Like me getting upset at my dad and screaming on stream, for example. I don't like bringing this up, but it really happened. The box life thing really happened. And unfortunately, that clip will probably get clip-chimped a lot. And it already has. That somebody's going to take that clip and use it as a way to attack my character. That's happened several times already. But I think the reason why I bounce back, you know, maybe I haven't really grown significantly as a content creator, but that might not have anything to do with that. In fact, the majority of people who have stuck by me, there's been a lot, have been aware of that event and understand the complexities of, child and parent relationships. And also understand that I am still in recovery from abuse. And that sometimes that trauma surfaces, and, I have PTSD. And at the time, I think people understand that at the time, I had only just started therapy. I had only just started transitioning. After like a lifetime of, just closeting everything about who I am. Not just gender, just everything. Like all my emotions, everything. Shoving it all down because I didn't want to feel. Because I'm a victim of abuse. Because that's what victims do. Is they, in order to survive, you shove those feelings down. But, you don't need those anymore. You needed them at the time to survive. But now we have more resources as an adult. And it's really hard to use them sometimes. It took me my entire life to go seek out therapy because I didn't want to hurt people anymore. I didn't want the abuse that happened to me to be abuse that I did. I didn't want to become the abuser. And unfortunately, the internet only sees what they want to see most of the time. But a lot of reasonable people will see what happened and forgive me for it, and see how much progress I've made and see the kind of person I really am. Yeah, and not everything has to be... When we think of trauma, I think it's so easy to think of, like, the big things that I'm not even going to bring up. But, like, there's big things that happen in some people's childhood. Trauma can be like very, it's very complicated. Some things that we would never think are trauma are actually trauma. Anyway, I really do want to steer away from this topic. It's really upsetting me. There's a point where talking about things doesn't really help, particularly publicly. Like I think I've kind of written more of a, I mean, public speaking, I can talk about things in a broad sense. And, maybe one day I'll write a book about that kind of stuff, but not about specifics. But, yeah, I don't think the world needs to know every single detail. And, I have a right to privacy as well. But that being said, I'm very public about a lot of things. So, it's like, that doesn't mean that the world is entitled to know every private thing in my life. I have rights. And, as public as I am, that makes my privacy even more important. Just because I blast so much of my thoughts doesn't mean I have to blast every single one of my thoughts. And I obviously people understand this. That's just normal. But I think when you're like when you share things publicly, as I have, sometimes people find it like they expect you to share everything. Some people, they feel entitled. And I know that that's not the case. I'm just like kind of preemptively. I mean, like I said, I'm sharing my thoughts publicly. Like this is how my brain works. I kind of think about things ahead of time, even things that haven't happened, which can be a problem sometimes, which is why I'm going to therapy, because not everything that I think is true. Some things I'm imagining, and that's bad. I don't want to imagine things that aren't happening. I definitely don't want to be harmed by things that I'm imagining, because I'm imagining a lot of things that are harming me. And that's just how trauma works. That's how PTSD works, especially when you're autistic, which is why I am considered permanently disabled. But I'm trying to overcome that. Hopefully one day I don't need SSI anymore. Hopefully one day I can earn a living, and earn a very good living. Hopefully. That's the goal. Being a model and an actress. That would be a huge way to overcome my past trauma, is by moving forward, progressing my life, succeeding. These are things that are positive. These are things that heal. And while some people won't respect my career choice, they don't know me. They don't know what I need. They have no idea. They have no right. They don't know what will make me happy and what will make me feel pride for my work. I need to be able to respect myself. And if they consider what I want to do to be disrespectful to myself, they have no idea what they're talking about. Some people will say, "Oh, I don't want to do that because I have self-respect." And it's like, well, speak for yourself. It's obviously, has nothing to do with me. You don't know anything about me or what I need to make me happy. Such as transgender medicine, such as pursuing a career in modeling and acting. Some people think that that's disgraceful. I think it's liberating. I think it's, turning trauma into healing, moving forward, progressing my life, saving myself. What the fuck? Hey, soups are very yummy. Wait, that's weird. Whatever you're talking about, don't be so weird, man. Yeah, don't be weird, chat. Like Jesus. You guys need Jesus. I think this one's coming along much better than the previous one. Still not perfect. But much better so far. Mayhaps. No, disclaimer, I am not going to visit or be friends with anybody in my chat. Just like disclaimer, don't ask me to spend time with you. Don't ask me to meet you. If it were a different kind of situation and I did like a meet and greet because it's like, you know, an official kind of event and I have like, you know, there's like, you know, legal protections like security and all that kind of stuff. And there's like, you know, everything's kind of like protected. That'd be different. But I'm not a famous person. I don't have that kind of situation going on where I'm going to have like, you know, meet and greet events like at like a special, you know, kind of event like TwitchCon or something like that. I mean, if it's a public event like stuff like that, like TwitchCon, if I went to TwitchCon, that's kind of expected. Like you meet with Twitch streamers and Twitch chatters. But that's still like, you know, there's like an appropriate expectation, and there's also, you know, I have personal boundaries. Like, I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to share, you know, I'm here to share my expression, which is what creating is. Like that's what public speaking is. That's what content is it's expression. It's supposed to be seen publicly and enjoyed by people, but that doesn't mean that I want to be friends with you. Okay. I almost dropped the whole thing. Jeez. Do you like religion? I don't know, man. I think religion is very broad There is no one religion, even within a single sect. I mean, there's like there's a whole bunch of ideology within each religion that doesn't really agree with itself. So I don't really particularly think religion is healthy. But I respect people's faith and their belief unless they harm people with it. Because then it's like, if you're going to come after me for being trans, that's not taught in any kind of religious text. And if it is, and you're interpreting, or if you're interpreting that way, that becomes a problem. And particularly with Christianity, that, Jesus Christ never taught people to judge and hate other people, and he taught the exact opposite. So if you're going to use religion as you pick the wrong religion if that's what you're going to claim, because I know that Jesus Christ did not teach anything remotely close to that. That's all some bullshit that you came up with in modern day, because gay people, trans people, all the people like us, like, we did nothing wrong. There are people who did wrong things, but it's not because we're gay or trans. Like, there's people who've done bad things. But even then, people, if you're really going to go into religious teachings, the spirituality of Jesus Christ, the gospel, or whatever you want to call it, is about forgiveness and non-judgment. It's not for you to decide. It's not your job to save people. It's your job to love people, regardless of what they've done. Doesn't mean you have to spend time with them or, help them or whatever. You don't have to like them. But there's people that you don't agree with who deserve just as much life as you do. And it's not your job to take that person's life from them. That literally goes against everything that is in the Bible. So if you're going to use Christianity, you pick the wrong religion to hide behind for your personal hatred, because you don't agree that trans people or gay people should exist, and you want to justify it. Well, then you pick the wrong religion, because everything I know about Jesus Christ is that he loved people and cared for them. And it doesn't make any sense to me why anyone would claim otherwise. It's totally insane. It blows my mind that somebody would say they're a Christian and that's why they don't accept trans people, or they don't accept gay people, or they don't accept any people. That is imperialist beliefs. That is not religious beliefs. That is imperialism. That is like when people used Christianity to enslave people, to conquer different nations. They used Christianity as a weapon to, they saw people who didn't share their beliefs. They saw them as savages that needed to be trained in the ways of the gospel or whatever. They did not tolerate people who were different from them. And they just wanted to convert everybody into what they thought people should be. That is not religion. That is something else. Well, good night. Yeah, I got really way off topic. I'm steering into topics I really don't want to be talking about. I'm sorry. Um, oh, well, that's good. I just hope that, I hope that you don't use. I know that most people who are religious actually practice the spiritual teachings. There are people, though, who don't. And it's really sucks because people like me become harmed by it just for existing. I don't claim any religion. Like, obviously, the teachings of certain religions exist, and I try to understand them, and I try to understand people who practice them. But I don't really find any value in going to church. I don't find any value in living my life completely enslaved to a single idea that if any information presents any kind of dissonance with your beliefs, that you find some way to justify your beliefs instead of altering your beliefs. That is why I don't believe religion should dominate people's lives. But it's not my decision on how other people live their lives. But it's also not their decision how I live my life. Especially with things they don't understand. They don't understand transgender medicine. And instead of trying to understand it, they come up with all sorts of assumptions. And they try to use it as they try to stir fear and hatred for something that they don't even understand. And instead claim that they understand it, make up lies, and believe the lies. And no matter how much a church might be progressive or understanding, I could never trust a group of people who all share a different version of a set of beliefs to have my best interest in mind. That at any given moment, if I say or do anything that somebody disapproves of in the church community, I will become publicly shamed, I will be disgraced, and I will be cast out. That's not love and support in my book. That if in order to be accepted, I have to share their belief, then that's not for me. I'm an individual. I have my own beliefs, and other people can have their beliefs. But the minute I say that I will not accept somebody simply because they don't share my belief, my beliefs are my own, and my beliefs are about personal decision and personal choice and not harming others. But if your belief harms others, I fundamentally cannot accept it. If your belief is that trans people shouldn't have life-saving medicine, I can't accept that. That's fundamentally conflicts with my entire existence. And you shouldn't have to be trans in order to accept trans people. Because that wouldn't be possible. Otherwise, we'll never be accepted. Because there's only 1% of us. So, I mean, anybody who says, oh, you don't respect my belief, well, that's because your belief is that I should be shot. How am I supposed to accept a belief like that? Your belief is that I shouldn't exist, that there's something wrong with me, that I'm evil. I'm not saying you, I'm just saying like there's people out there that claim these religions, and claiming and being are two different things. However, there's such a risk towards interacting and associating with people of these religions because of that. That I'm not about to go to church and try to be a part of church. It's just very unhealthy for me. I do not want to damage my mental health in that way by, surrounding myself with people who at any given moment might turn around and betray me. I care about myself too much. Even churches that have embraced LGBTQ, because that's more or less what Jesus taught, I can't trust every single person in that church. There's somebody in that church who might kill me. And I'm not even exaggerating. So, I'm not going to align with that. Humanity always comes first. But I'm not going to sacrifice someone else's humanity for my own. That the people who hate me, who hate trans people, who hate transgender medicine, which in turn means they hate us because they want us to suffer, they want us to die, they want us not to get the help that has been proven to help us. I still see those people as people. It's like they're damaged. If you wish harm on other people, that means that you're damaged. There's something that that person is suffering from. It's just a different kind of suffering than the suffering that they cause. Because they do cause suffering, whether they want to admit it or not. Not a matter of opinion when your opinion is that somebody from an entire demographic shouldn't exist. That's not an opinion, that's hate. I guess that's an opinion, but it's not like an acceptable opinion. It's like accepting that, like, maybe murder is okay. Like, no, it's not okay. It's a crime. It's not your decision whether somebody should live or die. And if you claim your religion, then listen to your religion, because your religion says that only God can judge. So if you become the judge, what does that say about you? If anything, that makes you the sinner, because you're basically claiming that you know more than God, your deity, which is like strictly forbidden in the Bible. Like that's such a ridiculous thing. I can't believe people don't see it. They choose not to. They're like, oh, you're just, twisting it. It's like, no, I'm not twisting it. It's literally that. Your religion, your holy text clearly states that no one but God can judge. And then you become the judge, jury, and executioner every time something doesn't align with your beliefs. If anybody needs to go pray for forgiveness, I feel like you should start with yourself. Because any kind of crime that you can accuse me of being because I'm trans or because I'm sexual, because I'm pansexual, which includes being gay. Because I'm attracted to women and I'm attracted to men, and I'm a woman and I'm attracted to women. That means that I have gay tendencies, which is fine. But if you think that that's a problem, well, the problem that the thing is it's much worse. Even if that is a problem, which it's not, but even if you believe that it's a problem, it's a much worse problem to take action on your belief. So as soon as you take action on your belief, you've already gone against your own religion. Like, it's not your job to judge. That job is is your deity's job, not yours. So if you think that I'm going to burn in hell, then that's not your place. That's God's place. And as far as I know, God loves me because God made me. And I'm beautiful. And if you don't accept that, that's your problem. It's also your loss. There's people who really love me and appreciate me for who I am. And if you don't, well, I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. It's not my job to fix you. I can't help you if that's the kind of person that person is. Maybe reach out to your church for that kind of help. And if your church thinks that you're okay even though you practice hatred, maybe you should find a different church. Or maybe you should do something, I don't know. Either way, it doesn't change my existence, it doesn't change my life. I don't require you to do this. You don't have that much power over me. I don't need your acceptance. That's for you. And I wish you the best. But I know who I am, and I'm beautiful, and I'm wonderful and amazing, and people love me, and I do good things. I always attempt to do good things, to make the world a better place, to make my life a better place, to make the people in my life better. If that isn't what a good person does, then I don't know what is. And I don't know what the point of all this is. If, your requirements to accept me as a human being are so strict that if I make any kind of transgression that goes against your beliefs, that you just completely cast me aside like I'm a monster, then I fundamentally cannot have that in my life. It's just too insane. That it doesn't make any sense. Anyway, that's what I think about religion. I got no problem with you if you don't hurt people, especially if it's, and particularly if you don't hurt me. But if you hurt people, I don't accept your religion. Because that's a cult. That's a terrorist group. That's not a religion. People in religions don't harm others. And those people I accept as true spiritual people. And they know who they are. And they also don't need my approval. They'll be who they are regardless of what people think. That's the beauty. Like that's the beautiful part of it. I don't know when I'll stream chess next. Probably not for a while. I'll either do something like this, like just chatting with just talking about stuff and like knitting, or I'll do World of Warcraft, or Final Fantasy 11, or some other game like Atomic Picnic, which is in pre-alpha release. Games like that. I like being a part of developing game, like pre-alpha release kind of stuff. Like, I like that kind of stuff. It means that when I play the game and stream the game, that like I can, be a part of improving it. And when I play World of Warcraft, even though it's a very old and established game, I'm a part of the community, and everything I do helps improve the experience, hopefully, of everyone else who plays. Because it's a community. Communities are what life's all about. Even though some people might not really think it's that big of a deal. Even a video game community is still a community of people. Unless they're bots. But hopefully your guild isn't made up of bots. Yeah, go to sleep, Ronak. Take care of yourself. And I enjoyed our conversation. I talked a lot about very, very difficult topics today. It's been about 2 hours, 37 minutes. I think I'm going to take a break, and when we come back, I'm going to just be playing some World of Warcraft. I'm really into knitting right now. I do knit a lot off stream. I think starting my stream, it's kind of exhausting sometimes because I talked about some pretty heavy topics. And that's just kind of where my mind's at right now. I think it'll be more beneficial when I'm like this to turn off the stream. This one's a lot better. Like, look at this. It's actually like a rectangle and not like a weird like bending circle thing like this one turned out to be. I really screwed this one up. Hopefully we don't screw this one up. Like this one turned into a weird thing. It's still nice, and it's nice and comfy. I'm going to give that to my dad. He'll really appreciate it because he knows that I've been putting effort into learning this. And I know that he'll appreciate that one, and he'll cherish it, and he'll keep it with him. Because that's what my dad does. My dad might have some problems, but one of the things he does is he cherishes every gift that has been given to him. Because he knows that the gift represents the person who gave that gift to him. And this represents everything that I've been working on. This was my first knitting project. I can't think of anyone else to give this to other than my dad, because I know that he will appreciate it even though it's garbage. Because he sees it not as garbage, but as a direct representation of me and everything that I've worked on, not just in knitting, because this represents my learning process of knitting. That in and of itself is already a lot. But this also, all the energy that I put into learning this, every stitch that I do is processing every single event of my life in a therapeutic way and trying to overcome the difficulties that I've faced in life. This is like some wannabe scarf that ended up turning into, I guess, a toilet seat cover. But this is progress. This is going to be an actual scarf unless I ruin it. Assuming that I don't really make any more mistakes. I made a few, but not so bad. Assuming I don't make any more mistakes, this will be an actual scarf. So yeah, I'll be back on later, probably to play World of Warcraft. Because I want to get level 25 this weekend in Season of Discovery. Yeah, and I do try to, I'm just kind of in a very contemplative mood today. I've been dealing with a lot of trauma recently. That was, I think the more you let it boil to the surface, when you boil water, it evaporates. So if you bring stuff to the surface, and hopefully in a way that doesn't harm you or others, which I think I've been dealing with this healthy. It is difficult to process, but difficult doesn't mean it's wrong. And being able to process all these things means that I'm boiling off all the bad parts. And the only thing I'm left with are the good parts. The parts that make me who I am, that makes me beautiful, that makes the people who love me and the beauty that they see, that I don't necessarily see all the time. The beauty of myself that other people see remains. And so that's why, it's exhausting to always be processing trauma. So that's why I need to stop the stream, because when I'm talking about trauma on stream, I need to stop. I go in circles. Some things have to be processed off stream. And that's where my knitting comes in. Sometimes, I think it was good. I don't think anything bad happened. What I'm saying is that it's like when you do resistance training, like working with resistance bands or doing weightlifting or anything like that, you need to breathe. And you can't just be doing set after set after set. You can't just lift 300 pounds all day. At some point, you need to put the weights down. And that's kind of where these streams come in. And at some point, I will be able to move past this. And we can reach new adventures, new topics, new content. And right now, it doesn't seem like that's really possible, but I know it will be. And every little teeny tiny step towards progress is still progress. And it's not the best content. It might be even uncomfortable, but it's why I stream, is so I can have this place where I didn't have before. Something that has helped me through these past 4 years, in addition to therapy, not as a replacement, but as supplement to my therapy, has been a space that I've created where I can talk about these things, and it's been so valuable in improving my life. But that doesn't mean I have to go in circles, because sometimes going in circles, you'll end up making really not really much progress, or even progress in the wrong, backwards. Because it's I go in circles a lot. I've gone in circles just trying to close out this stream. Which is why sometimes you need to put the weights down. When they put you in the rubber room with rats, it'll drive you crazy, because they put you in the rubber room with rats, and the rats drive you crazy. And so they put you in the rubber room with rats, and the rats drive you crazy. It's circular. It's infinitely recursive. And when you don't know how to break out of that, take a pause, take a break, that can harm you. It might not be as harming as I think, but it's still harm. Sometimes I think that maybe I've been online too much. I've said too much. There's people out there who have said way worse than me, who have dug themselves into a grave, into hell. Certain streamers come to mind, like Destiny, for example, or Aiden Ross. But they're doing okay. I don't want to be them, but it's I don't think anything is so bad you can't recover from it. And honestly, these people, I respect Destiny a lot. I feel like he has some flaws, some very serious flaws in the way that he talks to people, and I feel like he kind of does it on purpose, which is kind of weird. But I see what he's trying to do. He's trying to maintain his consistency of his image. I understand that. It's just kind of weird to me. Dude, you have the power to change who you are, and you choose not to. It's kind of weird. I don't know though. It's just like that guy's kind of on a different level. Yeah, he's dug himself pretty far down into hell, honestly. But I don't even think that that's as bad as like I think it is. Like he can always come back. And as long as you're alive, you have an opportunity. And he said a lot of weird shit, but that doesn't mean he acts on it. So there's people who've done way worse. He talks about a lot of stuff that's kind of weird, but as far as I know, he doesn't act on it. He just talks publicly about it, which I guess some of his followers, a lot of his followers, might act on, which is considered. My speech, while it's protected, you have to be really careful with. Especially if you have a large audience. And I know his personal belief is that he sees himself with a platform and he sees a responsibility. And I feel like he is accomplishing that. He's trying to speak to the people who don't want to be spoken to. He's trying to reach the conservative alt-right people and he's trying to save them from the rabbit hole. And that's like an unsolvable task, and he's taking on the task. I don't know if he's doing it effectively. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. But I know that that's his personal credo, is the reason why he does what he does, and why he talks with the people that he does, is because he's doing the difficult things that are very messy and dirty. Like, he's talking to the people that most people won't talk to. And there's a reason why they won't talk to them. Because a lot of the times they end up being Nazis. But he's trying to reach them to try to change their minds. And I feel like that's a worthy goal. So that's why I respect Destiny. And whatever he's doing, I salute him for that. But I'm not a part of that. Like, I'm me. I'm like really nice and beautiful, and I care about people, and I want all my actions to reflect that. I want my words to reflect that. Anyway, I'm going to head out for now. I'm going to play some World of Warcraft later. All my knitting stuff I'll do off stream. Because I want to finish a scarf. Like, I want to actually finish a scarf and not just do part way. Like, this one, I think, can be an actual scarf. I don't feel like this one was a waste. Like I said, I'm going to give this to my dad, and he's going to really love it. I can't wait to see his reaction. As weird and as flawed as this is a part of me. This is the broken and flawed and twisted and frayed representation of me. This is what I look like. And I need to love myself and learn from my mistakes so that I can have something closer to what I want to be, which is much more harmonious, and it's closer to what I want it to be. Anyway, bye-bye.